What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Here we are with another reaction. In this, we have Americans don't get British humor. Here's why. Now, before we jump in, I would just like to go on record saying I do understand British humor, and I absolutely freaking love it. Now, I will say it definitely is different than Americans, and I love American humor as well. But British humor, while different, is absolutely hilarious. I love it. But I can understand some Americans not really getting British humor for real. I feel like the Brits to me are able to get away with saying a lot more than you can say in America without getting canceled, and so I really love that. And then there's like a lot of sarcasm and things that where American humor that American humor just doesn't contain. But once again, we are back with Girl Gone London channel. Make sure y'all go check out her channel, subscribe to it, and if I will link her original video down in the description if you'd like to check it out. If you guys happen to enjoy this, don't forget to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and if you'd like to become a member, all y'all do is hit that join button to receive exclusive benefits. See what we got.
Americans feel they can relax and laugh at something when it's not too mean or too dark. Brits don't feel like they can relax and laugh at something unless they're assured it's not too positive. Why did the American version of the British show The Office have to stop following the British format after the very first episode? And why do so many Americans not understand Blackadder? Why does this article from 1999
absolutely freaking love Blackadder
ask fellow Brits the following question? Why don't we love Seinfeld? Seinfeld was a top-rated show in America, it reads. Its final episode attracted American TV's highest ever audience, yet its audience in Britain has been in the range of the more austere art shows. If you guessed that the answer to all of these why questions was humor, then I'm not that impressed because it was in the title of the video. Aside from the general communication differences, humor is one of those areas where the UK and the USA are about as different as you could be. And the ways in which we express humor and the things we find funny are the topics of today's video. Now, this isn't to say that no British person has ever enjoyed an American comedy. Friends, after all, is one of the top-rated American shows here in the UK. And it's not to say that no Americans have ever enjoyed a British comedy. Monty Python, for example, is known by a lot of Americans.
I love British comedies. Monty Python isn't on my favorites list, but I haven't seen all of Monty Python. I've only seen bits and pieces. But I feel like there are other British comedies that I enjoy more than Monty Python.
But if we zoom out and generalize, as we often do on this channel, the differences become obvious. One of the most popular ways in day-to-day life that Brits will show affection and make jokes is doing something called taking the mick. There are a few different meanings to this phrase, but the more positive one that we're going with today is the idea that someone is making fun of you from a place of humor and because they actually like you. Used in this context, it's not like bullying or making fun of someone that you don't like. Instead, it's joking around with a friend, making jokes at their expense, but in a jesting way. Culturally, this does not translate in the US. Now, after more than 10 years here, my humor is different and my personal brand of humor has always been a bit sarcastic, so I have adapted to and understand and use this type of humor myself, but if you just roll up into some random town in North Carolina and try doing this to someone, you are going to get some strange looks or possibly shot, depending on the town you walk into. This is also a part of what's known as banter. By definition, banter is the playful and friendly exchanging of teasing remarks. It's good-natured.
Love it.
Americans don't really banter, not like Brits do. Banter is typically quick, and it's all about social bonding. In the US, you would typically say compliments to generate goodwill. In the UK, you use jest to do the same thing. It is an adjustment when you first move here to understand that everyone doesn't actually hate you and they're only willing to banter with you or to take the mick when they like you or trust you. If they didn't, they'd just ignore you. Because they're not actually making fun of you to destroy your feelings, but to show you that they accept you and have positive feelings towards you, which is, of course, far too vulnerable a thing in the UK to say out loud. I kid, but only slightly. The next difference on my list is that
I completely understand this because this is exactly how I am, like with all my bros and all my friends. We'll clown each other constantly. I will say I have seen videos. UK, y'all take it to another level that yeah, I would say that Americans aren't as comfortable going to. Y'all take it. But that is legit. Me clowning with my friends and joking with them like that is just me saying like, hey, like that means we're tight. Like we're really close. The fact that I can joke around with you and clown with you and make fun of you and you won't get offended because you know it's not coming from a place of like me trying to hurt your feelings, me trying to bully you, anything like that. It's all just in fun. It's all just in good fun. Like we just joke around and all that. But like I said, in the UK, bro, y'all take it to a different level. The video I seen, I was like, bro, like, oh my God, like, how do I know you joking anymore at this point, bro? Y'all cutting deep, like. And then I feel like, yeah, if you roll up on a town and do this with strangers, yeah, people are not gonna like you. I feel like it's done here in the U.S., but you really gotta build like a close friendship, a close bond with someone before you can do that. And I feel like it's mostly done with the guys, mostly done with the bros. But yeah, you don't just meet somebody and then start with the joking and the teasing and you don't do that. You build a relationship and then it starts to come. Banter, yeah, we don't like she got that nail on the head. We usually start out with compliments to build goodwill. It's not just. But I really like when I watch Love Island UK and stuff like that. I really love like watching the UK like banter back and forth, like because it's so cool. Because I think women are here are probably a little more sensitive, so us guys can't really banter like that without hurting feelings. In the UK, hey, it's back and forth. It's back and forth. You love it.
That British humor is just overall darker than American humor.
That's
which brings us to the show The Office. Before we get into what Ricky Gervais has to say about the darkness of the British version of The Office, let's talk about how you can watch both the US and UK version of The Office without needing to be in its country of origin. And that's Surfshark, the sponsor of today's video and the best way to unblock and access websites and streaming services that aren't typically available at a beatable price. Now, Ricky Gervais, who is a British icon and you'll find in the British version of The Office, had an interesting...
Ricky Gervais is absolutely one of the funniest people on planet Earth, bro. He's absolute... And not only does he make amazing comedy, it makes amazing TV, movies in general. But okay, but Caitlin, you got
insight into the differences between the British and American version of the show. He says, "We had to make Michael Scott a slightly nicer guy with a rosier outlook to life. He could still be childish and insecure and even a bore, but he couldn't be too mean. The irony is, of course, that I think David Brent's dark dissension and eventual redemption made him all the more compelling. But I think that's a lot more palatable in Britain for the reasons already stated. Brits almost expect doom and gloom. So to start off that way but then have a happy ending is an unexpected joy. Network America has to give people a reason to like you, not just a reason to watch you. In Britain, we stop watching things like Big Brother when the villain is evicted. We don't want to watch a bunch of idiots having a good time. We want them to be as miserable as us. America rewards upfront, on-your-sleeve niceness.
True.
A perceived wicked streak is somewhat frowned upon."
True.
Now, I included the whole...
True. Dang, that's a great statement. Because, yeah, like in the U.S., I've never really watched Big Brother, but a lot of shows, like... I usually won't end up... Sometimes I will, but for the most part, I will not end up rooting for the villain. Nah, I'm rooting for, like, the nice guy. The guy who plays fair. The guy who plays with honor. Then the guy who plays by deception and betrayals and all of that. So... That's a really good point. That is a really good point.
Quote here, because he is so spot on for how I perceive American versus British comedy and why I personally didn't like the British version of The Office when I first watched it. That doom and gloom kind of comedy that he talks about doesn't sell as well in the US. And you can actually see this in all types of television, including the differences between UK and USA soap operas, but that's for another video. British humor is slightly dark. Just the other day, I made a video while I was ill and I showed my inspiration inspirational blanket with an inspirational quote on it about going after your dreams. One of the comments made a funny but astute observation, saying something along the lines of the British version of that blanket says, "Don't worry, it all ends soon." Dark humor is much more appreciated in the UK than in the USA, and their comedies show this. Another example would be Fleabag, a UK show that relies on some pretty dark humor. Compare this to American shows like Friends, there's nothing dark about it. It's practically uplifting. And even when things are going wrong, there's that rosy outlook to life that Ricky Gervais is talking about. And Americans like and react to this type of comedy. Americans feel they can relax and laugh at something when it's not too mean or too dark. Brits don't feel like they can relax and laugh at something unless they're assured it's not too positive. And this is why the US version of The Office had to adapt and create its own twist on the show after the first episode. The British version just wouldn't land for an American audience. Another big difference in humor across the
Thanks. Yeah, she's hitting the nail on the head. That's exactly how I would explain it. That's exactly, The U.S. Is not, as much about the doom and gloom. I feel like, we don't really engage with that as well as the Brits do. But that's just built off of, most Americans are like in America, there's like a sense of optimism, a sense of you can be anything you want to be, you can do anything you want to do. Like if you work hard enough, the American dream, all of this kind of optimism. And from what I've seen in a lot of UK videos, Brits are very like pessimistic, and so of course the humor is that it has to be different, right? They're gonna respond to different types of humor. So I think she's absolutely spot on. I do like the UK Office. David Brent is wild, bro. I never really watched the US version of The Office, so I don't know if I'd like it or not. But I just never started it. But I did like the UK.
Is what we find funny. British humor often involves cringy or awkward moments as the star of the show. Someone who was watching The In-Betweeners posted on Reddit saying, "How do you Brits watch cringe comedy? I was watching The In-Betweeners and every episode made me want to shrivel up into a ball and die. Is this just normal for you?" And the commenters responded that yes, this is part of it. It's art imitating life. It's funny to see awkward moments happen to someone else, and misfortune can be funny. American comedy, on the other hand, is typically about escapism. The situations that happens to characters usually ends up being more over the top rather than the cringy, true to life situations in a British comedy. When an American watches a British comedy, many times they're left wondering, where's the humor? I just feel awkward, because they're not understanding that that is the humor. Difference 4 on my list has to do with slapstick or physical humor. From as far back as the Three Stooges, Americans love watching someone fall down, get hit by a plank of wood, or engage in some other physical comedy that probably wouldn't happen in real life. Slapstick is one of the types of humor that is the most open and easily understood. It doesn't require nuance. Hence why there's a lot of slapstick comedy in kids' movies, because they can easily understand the joke before they can understand the verbal nuances of verbal jokes. British humor relies much less on slapstick comedy, though of course you can still find it, but it's typically a bit more understated, rather than something like Will Ferrell driving a motorcycle through a house and getting stuck in a wall, which was a scene from an American comedy I just watched the other day. Another difference is what constitutes a joke. When you think of an American comedy, you're often going to think of a sitcom like Friends or Seinfeld. The jokes are based around the one-liners and the punchlines. The length of the joke then is short, and the audience is very aware of when it's over and when to laugh, and sometimes they're helped with a laugh track in the background. Again, it is a more obvious type of humor rather than the British style, which typically has the joke being a long, drawn-out, awkward situation or cringy moment that has laughter throughout. And if there is a one-liner in British comedy, there certainly isn't a laugh track. This is why Americans can often watch a British comedy show and think it's not funny, because they were waiting on the obvious jokes and the specific funny moments to point out. Not realizing that the long and drawn-out awkward situation is the joke. For example, Gavin and Stacey, Father Ted, and Only Fools and Horses. Our second to last difference between American and...
Such good. I haven't seen Gavin and Stacey. I've seen Father Ted and Only Fools and Horses. And dang, I mean, she's right. Like, I freaking, in a lot of these shows that I've seen, I end up rooting for like these characters so much in like these British comedy series, and it seems like they can never like get the success that they're aiming for. Like they never reach it. Like even in Only Fools, I feel like that final episode, I thought was a final episode, they finally become freaking millionaires. If you haven't seen Only Fools, so sorry that I just ruined it. They finally get it. But of course they have to make a couple more episodes where they lose it all. So that British humor, yes, is completely different. I find myself rooting for these characters, like I said, and I just find them like, every time I root for them, they just never get the thing that I want them to get. They never get the girl, or they never get the money, or they never get the job, or they always failing, and always it's doom and gloom. And I'm like, come on, please. And so, yeah, but yeah, I love the sense of like continuing every episode rooting for them. It's almost to the point where I know they're gonna fail me, but I'm rooting as hard as I can. And then when you do get that happy ending, like Only Fools, when you do see them become millionaires, like the American in me was like so excited and like jumping up and down, and it just I was like, yes, they did. And then they took it away. All right, but I'm sorry, keep it going.
And British comedy is all about the sincere nature of American comedy versus the sarcastic and deadpan British humor. In the UK, deadpan or dry humor is all about emotionless delivery, which in turn makes the thing you're joking about funny. It's associated with sarcasm, and your face is very blank with no animation. You're not being open with your body language in the delivery that it is in fact a joke. This type of comic delivery is loved in the UK. Truly, I have never met people more skilled at deadpan humor than Brits. But the reason why Americans don't often get this humor is because American jokes and humor are often delivered with emotional sincerity. We're almost laughing along as we say the funny statement to indicate to you that we are in fact joking. Deadpan humor, if not native in your culture, can be very hard to pick up on if you're expecting sincerity. And for you Americans who say, well, I use dry humor, I'm sarcastic, I do deadpan here in America, yes, I believe you, but I guarantee you if you went around in the US with a British level of deadpan humor, you'd have no friends, and literally everyone you interacted with would dislike you.
I completely agree with her. If we, like I said, even about taking a mic earlier, I said I love to do that, but the Brits take it to a different level that the American inside of me's not comfortable with. So again, I agree with her. Yeah, you may love deadpan humor, you may do it, but the Brits again probably take it to another level that, yeah, like she said, if you went around with that level, you wouldn't have no friends and everything and all that.
Our final difference is the British ability to laugh at themselves as a major form of comedy. Self-deprecation is seen as incredibly funny. Highlighting your own fault and making light of your own failures is hilarious to Brits. There's little room for ego in British humor, and as much as your friend is at the mercy of you taking the mick out of them, you equally make jokes at your own expense to make yourself more approachable and relatable. Americans do self-deprecation a little bit, but in smaller doses than the Brits. Often, if you say something self-deprecating about yourself in the US, you might be met with someone saying something like, don't say that about yourself, or trying to make you feel better. Again, an American may feel you're being sincere rather than humorous. It's not culturally seen as a good thing to talk yourself down in the US. Americans are attracted to confidence and this general positive outlook we discussed at the beginning of the video. And self-deprecation as a joke can often fall flat in that sense. Now that does bring me to the end of this video, but before we finish, I also want to point out some food for thought. If you watched my video about communication styles between the UK and the USA, you might remember the differences in a high context and a low context culture. And the idea is that America is a low context culture, which is not a judgment, but instead a way of describing that due to its makeup and history and other cultural factors, people communicate in America in more literal and direct ways than in the UK. They don't rely on hidden meanings. So while it can be easy as Brits to look at American humor and say, well, British humor is clearly more sophisticated. Look at those dumb Americans with their actual laugh tracks. You'd be simplifying the situation, and that's fine. No one's gonna arrest you for that. But actually, American humor in its openness and sincerity works better in a low context culture that is used to a more direct means of communication. So while it might not be right or funny to you, it is right for the culture in which it comes from, which is exactly what I would say to Americans who think British humor isn't funny. It's not funny to you because it doesn't fit in with your culture, but it certainly does in theirs. As for me, my sense of humor has definitely blended. I enjoy deadpan and dry British humor, and I can still laugh at Will Ferrell driving a motorcycle through a house and getting stuck in a wall, so it just means I get to enjoy even more comedy. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you next time.
You can absolutely tell that she completely understands both humors. That living in the UK, she's definitely got used to the deadpan, the sarcasm, the nuances, the hidden meanings, all of that. And when she lived in America, she understood American humor completely. I would say the same things that she said. She just put it in a much better way than I could ever dream of putting it. But yes, I feel like really like if Americans really just sat down and gave UK humor and comedy shows a shot, like I think you really enjoy them. You really enjoy them. There may be some that I don't think would translate well. Like while I enjoyed Bottoms, I thought it was hilarious. I don't think it translate well in the US. And then they're just, but I love the In-Betweeners, bro. That one's really good. Only Fools is absolutely amazing. Red Dwarf is killer. IT Crowd. Derek. Oh, Derek was. It made me feel every emotion in the book, not just comedy, but every single emotion that you can feel. There's so many great UK shows. There's so many great shows. That's all we got, though. If you guys enjoyed, don't forget to subscribe, get a video a thumbs up, and check out the next one. I'll see you guys next time.